Alrighty, so here we go. It is now time to once again do a review while I'm on the road from a hotel room. And actually, before I begin by talking about this game between Pumas versus San Diego FC, there's one thing I want to quickly just want to address that just still really annoys me to this day, and also at the same time kind of glad that MLS game is now exclusively broadcast on Apple TV and not on those national television network only like Fox and ESPN. So at one point in this game between Pumas versus San Diego, I think it was around the 52nd minute mark, for whatever reason, FS2 decided that we are just going to cut the footage into a meaningless college basketball game and then basically leave this game on the Fox Sports app. Now, as you probably know, I don't have the Fox Sports app, and I also don't have 2DN as well. So basically, I was left in the dark for about 8 minutes. And even though it was 8 minutes of game time that I missed, I mean, that's still pretty valuable in terms of the overall game. And this is another example of why I am just so glad that MLS games are no longer mainly going to be on Fox or even on ESPN in some of those big matchup on national TV, because I remember how many times that I got so frustrated that these games were being cut maybe during the middle of the game or even before the game was or even doing when the game is scheduled, they had to cut to somewhere else, mainly because we still need to finish this program of some meaningless women's softball game that is going to happen. So again, I'm just so glad that MLS games basically no longer have to deal with that. But I'm just so frustrated, and I'm just so tired of seeing Fox does this. I really hope Apple TV or any streaming the network will have a contract in terms of broadcasting CONCACAF Champions Cup game in the future, because it's absolutely ridiculous the fact that we have this situation in the year of 2026 when it comes to watching CONCACAF Champions Cup game, that we still have to deal with the same issue, and Fox are just so notorious when it comes to doing that in the past. But with that being said, let us now put my board back on here. So in the second leg game between Pumas versus San Diego. So the bad news for San Diego is that they did lose this game, but the good news is they won the overall leg. And this is why I said back in the first leg of the CONCACAF Champions Cup first round match between Pumas and San Diego, despite the fact that San Diego did win 4-1 in that game against Pumas, I didn't think it was over by any means of necessary. Because if you know there's one thing we have seen Pumas done before, is that they have done some incredible comebacks, and I even reiterate what I said about the game between New England and Pumas, where Pumas was able to come back from free goal down in terms of the aggregate and eventually win in a PK shootout. And in this game, I gotta say, San Diego, they have to absorb a lot of pressure. In many ways, this feels like it was a typical game for MLS team when they go down to Mexico to face against the Liga MX side. You're not going to have a lot of possession, and you're going to be up against it. And boy, San Diego was definitely up against it in this one. But in the end, they survive, and that first leg game where they were able to not only win that game but also put a good margin, that turns out to be a huge difference of them able to move on into the next round of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Now in the first half, the first shot of the game did see Juninho puts it wide off the volley. Unlike the first leg, Pumas definitely dominated possession and was on the front foot as San Diego was trying to survive the early pressure, and this was expected. I knew coming into this game, as much as I know that's kind of the MO for San Diego, to trying to have possession and basically control the game. You're probably not going to do that, especially when you go down to Mexico and go there to play in altitude during the preseason, and especially for a Pumas team that is very desperate to trying to overcome the embarrassment that happened in the first leg. Durade would then puts it high from long range before Ceciega would deny Durade from close in the 12th minute. Pumas was definitely knocking on the door early on, and this is where, if you're San Diego, again, we see this before with MLS team, from the get-go they might be under immense pressure by their Liga MX opposition, and it's very important to just kind of survive early and not give up that goal, because we've seen it so many times before where MLS team decided to give up an early goal. Next thing you know, not only that give confidence to the Liga MX team, but the crowd gets into it, and next thing you know, MLS team just completely fall because of it. But in the 13th minute, the first shot of the game for San Diego came when Pellegrino was in on goal here, but he struck the post as he was in on go. And yeah, remember how I said before that as much as I know Pellegrino had a really good run of form near the end of the season because he kind of finally ended his curse in terms of goal scoring, and that, yeah, I feel like this season that curse is back on him because he just simply cannot buy a goal. And this is why I've said before, for San Diego, I wouldn't be surprised they might look for another number 9 because while Pellegrino was good late in the season, he is a very streaky number 9. We've seen it during his time with the San Jose Earthquakes, and we're seeing it now again with San Diego, where despite the fact that he had a great end of the season, he is once again struggling to put the lid off the goal with his finishing that hasn't been great so far in the beginning of the season. But yeah, that's also one that not only was the first shot of the game, but that might be one that can hunt back San Diego. Because if you know that whenever you face against a Liga MX side down in Mexico, you're not going to get a lot of chances. That was probably the best chance and probably a grade A chance that you have to bury, especially you know you're going to be up against it throughout this game. Vite would then put it high from long range as San Diego. I did think that they kind of ride out the original pressure a little bit. They tried to possess. Never mind. Pumas continued to attack and look to try to get the opening goal. Ciciega denied Juninho on a 1v1. I'll tell you what, Pablo Ciciega, he was immense in this game. And this was also kind of his homecoming as well, knowing that he was actually from Mexico City. And boy, did he had a homecoming and then some in this one. He was a huge reason why Pumas were only able to score the one tonight. He was definitely holding the fort for most of this game. But in the 28th minute, Carvalho would then puts it high from long range. The shots were 6-1 for Pumas already halfway into the or half hour into this game. Juninho would then hit it wide from close before Dreyer was in on goal again, but he just couldn't quite get this shot off after a heavy touch as he was getting into the box. I gotta say, Anders Dreyer, it's been kind of a rough start for him in the beginning of the season. He didn't really play spectacularly well in that first game, besides the assist that he had in terms of the first goal that San Diego scored to get the equalizer. But yeah, he's been kind of a little rough to start the season, and I guess that can happen, when you're a team that is still in preseason, especially playing in altitude. It's definitely not going to be easy whatsoever. But, if that was Dreyer in the middle of the season, more times than not, he's going to bury that. In fact, San Diego had a lot of transitional moment, and it was kind of expected because Pumas is going to really go for it. They're going to leave all sorts of gap at the back for San Diego to exploit. I even said the transition chances are definitely dead for San Diego, as Pumas was definitely committing everyone forward to try to get that goal. But you just kind of have a sense that San Diego's got to capitalize one of these transitional moments to really put the pressure on Pumas. Dreyer tried to do so, but he hits one right to Navas before Pellegrino struck the post again in the near post in the 36th minute. As I immediately wrote, yep, Pellegrino seems like he's back snake bitten again. Just cannot buy a goal, even if his life depends on it. Carrillo then sends one to Cancun in the 37th minute, but we do head to halftime with the score tied up at 0-0, and that was important for San Diego because it was very important for San Diego to get to halftime 0-0, knowing that, you can clearly see that this Pumas team was getting frustrated and started to kind of getting a little desperate to trying to get that opening goal. And in the second half, well, Pumas finally got that first goal that they need to hope to start a comeback. And it's former Whitecaps starter Pedro Vite that gets the goal here. It was actually a free kick delivery coming in to the box. One of those dangerous free kick delivery where if you're a defender, you kind of don't want to touch it because if you touch it, it might be an own goal. And even a goalkeeper as well. It's kind of in a no man's land situation where if you come off your lines, you're most likely not going to get there. But if you're staying on your line, maybe one of the players might actually hits that one and you can make a save. But yeah, unfortunately neither of that happened. It was just kind of in that no man's land situation, and it goes by everybody and goes into the back of the net. So yeah, just like that, Pumas has a 1-0 lead, and that was probably the worst possible start that San Diego could had to begin this second half. I mean, now you just got to make sure you don't not unravel, because the crowd was into it after the goal was scored. You can clearly see that Pumas finally got that goal that they needed, and this is where I'm worried that is this maybe the floodgates start to open, just like what we saw in the first leg when San Diego finally got that equalizer. The floodgates definitely open for San Diego in the second half. Ciciega then denied Morales from close range. This is when I said that the game was interrupted for college basketball, which is so Fox Sports of doing that. But luckily, the game did return in the 62nd minute, and the scoreline was still 1-0. I have no idea what happened in between that, but at least the scoreline was still 1-0, and nothing really serious happened during that point. At least that's what I'm thinking. Pumas continue to have the possession. San Diego, though, I thought they did a much better job, at least in the second half, not really allowing too much chances. It feels like they kind of tightened up the defense a little bit, but it's also at the same time maybe Pumas kind of pushing it a little bit too hard, because again, they're desperate to try to get that second goal to now all of a sudden, if Pumas gets that second goal, then not only the nerves gets all the way up to 10 level for San Diego, but now Pumas, if they can get one more goal, they get the 3-0 win, they're moving on to the next round because of the away goal rule. Around this time, San Diego was also trying to waste time again, and then that's when the name redacted chant started to ring out. I mean, you kind of knew this was going to happen when San Diego was trying to take the sting out of the game, taking their time in terms of the goal kick, that the name redacted chant was going to ring out, especially when this game is happening in Mexico. But in the 78th minute, Juninho would head it wide from close before Morales had a header that was actually pushed on to the post by Ciciega. It was clearly survival mode for San Diego, because you can kind of tell that this team was completely out of gas because of the altitude and also preseason, and it just feels like even though they have this 2-goal lead, again, it feels like it's very fringe, because as soon as Pumas score that goal back, that now all of a sudden they not only have all the belief to get themselves the third goal, but to complete the comeback and move on into the next round. In fact, the shots went out 21-5 in favor of Pumas, and they had a chance to get that second goal in the 85th minute if it wasn't for Ciciega absolutely robbing Juninho on a 1v1 opportunity. Martinez would then hits it right to Ciciega before Carrasquilla hits it right to Ciciega as well in the 89th minute. Like I said, Ciciega, he was on a heater up to this point. He was refused to be beaten, just being a brick wall here, and not refused to be beaten for the second time tonight. And you also kind of had a sense that the gas tank was almost at E for San Diego. If not, it's probably already at E before. They're pretty much on running on fumes right now, San Diego. They're just crawling their way to try to get to the round of 16, trying to keep themselves on the defensive shape. And in the end, they were able to just do that. Though, in the 5th minute stoppage time, I know I didn't write it here, but there was also a red card that was shown. It was Dorade, the one that got a second yellow card. It didn't really matter, because as soon as he got that second yellow card and get sent off, the referee blows for the full-time whistle. So Pumas didn't really play a man down at all in this game, despite the red card very late in this one. And yeah, in the end, San Diego, they're moving on into the next round. I definitely did not see this coming. I mean, I as I said, I feel like they probably watched my video a couple of weeks back of me saying that they're the least likely team to win the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and they definitely took it personally when I write that. But now moving on into the next round. Now, their next round opponent is the defending Liga MX champion Toluca. So, yeah, no easy task in terms of that either. Probably even tougher than the opponent that they faced, Pumas in this case. But still, you got to give a lot of credit to San Diego. I mean, for teams that, I know they had an incredible first season that is, but I kind of did doubt them a little bit heading into this tournament, especially facing against a Liga MX team straight off the bat as well. But they definitely passed that test in flying color, and now they got even a much tougher test to face against the defending Liga MX champion. And overall, they did everything right in this two-legged affair. One of the things that for an MLS team that will always have a chance to move on into the next round when you face against a Liga MX team, make sure you win your home leg, and make sure you win it in a convincing fashion, which San Diego did exactly that. And then when you're on the road, just simply survive and try to ride out the pressure as long as possible. You don't really even need to win if you, of course, got the objective of winning against your Liga MX opponent comfortably, which San Diego does, and that's exactly what they did in this game. They try to pack it in for most of the game, just kind of almost suffer throughout this game and hope that they do enough to just get their way into the next round. And that's exactly what San Diego did in this one. So certainly congratulations to them now moving on into the next round. Obviously, I would say that, this is not going to be easy. This might not be a great tactics to use now that they have to face against Toluca, a team that is even more dangerous going forward on the attacking end. But as the old saying goes, we'll get to that kind of discussion further, Mitch. I think San Diego fans are going to be celebrating such a historic moment of not only their team first ever victory in the CONCACAF Champions Cup in a competition just last week, but now able to win for the first time in a series in the CONCACAF Champions Cup as well. But the shots in this one, 25 shots compared to 5 that San Diego has, 9 shots on goal compared to 3 that San Diego has, 11 shots off target compared to 1 that San Diego has, 5 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that San Diego has, and possession-wise, 63% possession compared to 37% possession that San Diego has in this game. But yeah, either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do a like, smash the subscribe button. As always, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this game. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.